Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again for another live stream. If you're here, it's because you want to change your financial future. We see you, and we're so glad that you're here. So claim it. That's what we're going to do. If you're definitely in the right place, because that's what we're here to help you do. Tonight, we're going to talk about should you eliminate your debt and then start building wealth, or what order does that go in? Like, how do I start? How do I get started? And what should that look like? What's the best case scenario so that I know what to plan for?
Right. Yeah. And, I think that is a lot of the dilemma that I run into when I'm speaking with different clients, whether and regardless of what we're talking about. If we're talking about eliminating debt or getting a secure compound interest account or a self directed retirement account, there's this tug and pull of should I eliminate all of my debt first before I take these actions to improve my financial future, or should I, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? And I don't know that there's a wrong answer. There's probably a good, better, best type answer, but I don't know that there's, at least as long as you're taking action to do something, I think that that's the part that matters. But I think that this is not an unusual, I'll call it, space for people to be in.
Yeah, right. And knowing what to do and then learning late, not knowing what to do, but trying to do your best, then learning later on down the road, like a year, two, three, five, 10, that you could have done something different and gotten different results. It's kind of frustrating. So that's what we're going to help people avoid tonight. And I threw Donnell some slides and some visuals that he's had to make sense of real quick before we jumped on. So there's that, but I think it's going to be fun. It makes sense to me. I think it's going to make sense to you. And here's what I want to say, because we really love your guys' feedback. My job, I'm like really the advocate for everyone watching. That's
True.
who I am.
True story.
Right. I'm like constantly advocating, like, no, we need to explain it like this, because if I don't understand it and if I don't get it, then I need to make sure that my people out here get it. And so I'm always asking questions, and I'm always learning too, of course. But we love to hear your feedback. So I also try to make it fun, because this stuff, it's kind of boring. It's kind of a snooze fest just
Not
to hear
sexy.
it. Well, I mean, I think wealth building is kind of sexy though. I think the way
Well, I
that
like
you
that.
feel when you are
I
making
agree with
those
that.
moves, and you realize that WTF moment, you realize that you this is yours, like you have it in the bag, you have a plan in place, and this is happening for you. That's hella sexy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with
Yeah.
that. So yeah, and this also piggybacks on off the other conversations that we've been having, right?
Yeah.
We had gone through an example where we had compared a high yield savings account to this hybrid account to what that hybrid account would do compared to an IUL compared to MPI. And the thought process is, hey, once you've taken all of these actions to eliminate debt, you've done this such a great job in velocity banking. What happens with your cash flow? What do you
Yeah.
do with it?
Yeah.
What vehicle are you putting it in? Or did you just become debt free so that all of your money can sit in savings? What are those vehicles, those vessels that you put your money in so that you can start generating something more positive, right?
Yeah, exactly. So tonight, I mean, I think velocity banking itself is a powerful tool, it's a powerful vehicle. But then, is it possible once you get your head wrapped around this that you, I think a lot of people feel like, okay, I gotta get my head wrapped around this first, because this is enough. So
Right.
before I learn anything else, to do anything else, like just stop, Donnell. Just tell me how to do velocity banking first, then I'll learn how to do something else. And I get that. I get that. However, if there is somebody out there who is super passionate about putting it together in a way that can help you understand both things at the same time, well, that's me. Okay, that's me. That's what I tried to do.
I'm she.
I'm your girl. And that's essentially because of how important it is. So I don't know that we need to keep talking about it. Do you want to just dive in?
Yeah, we can. And I hear y'all set the stage a little bit. I keep calling this velocity banking, then what? So I'll kind of just high level go over what velocity banking is. And
Okay.
then I just want to set the stage with an example.
Okay.
and use that example to kind of walk through one, how it works once you freed up this cash flow and you got this cash flow ready to go to work for you. What does it produce? What's happening at that point? And then I want to break down how, because I keep talking about the secure compound interest account. And what I committed to today was to take that amount, take this secure compound interest account, and break down how MPI is able to produce the income that I keep saying that it's capable of doing compared to other vehicles like an IUL. How is this different? How is it that this secure compound interest account, this premium finance strategy, in the form of MPI, how can it produce in some cases, three times more than a traditional retirement account? How is that possible? And so this today is going to be a bit, I'll call it technical, and that's why I appreciate you, because you're right. From a visual perspective, I can talk about this stuff all day long, but that doesn't necessarily mean people understand it. So I'm hoping some of the visuals that we use today make this a little bit easier, at least if I can make my way through them, make this a little bit easier to understand. So
Yeah. I'm excited. Okay. Well, let me
you're
go
always excited.
find your. I'm always excited. Woohoo! That's what our kids did when they had me to act out for charades. They started going like this, and I was like, "What? What are you? What are you trying to act out?" Oh, it was me. That's so funny.
That is you.
That's a true story. Okay. All right. I'm gonna come in with you. So
Yeah, it's fine. We
okay.
can go to the half with the process.
Okay. All right. Here we are. And we're on.
All right. So just to kind of reiterate velocity banking a little bit, hold on, make sure things are centered right. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
just and also just to remind how velocity banking works, right? Income traditionally comes into your checking, and then you immediately take that money from your checking and you put it on a debt tool. We always talk about the different types of debt tools. There are many different types you can use, but regardless of the type, once that income goes on to the debt tool, you immediately pay all of your bills from it, which ends up once you do that, once you pay all of your bills from your debt tool, any of that cash flow that was originally living in your checking account or in your savings account or somewhere other than that debt tool, all of your cash flow ends up living on the debt tool. Well, once you've paid down all of your debts and your cash flow is tremendously grown, what do you do with this cash flow once you've eliminated that debt? Let's just say, once you've gotten to a place where you know what, I can breathe. Once you've gotten to a place where where you were negative $500 a month in cash flow to now you're at least positive. Maybe you're
Right.
not done with all of your debt, but you're at least in a positive cash flow position, and you're wondering what should I do with that money. And again, the piece that we committed to was kind of breaking down how we use the cash flow that's coming from that debt tool.
Yeah, and just how powerful cash flow is in general, right?
Right. Because what do I mean when I say cash flow? I'm literally talking once all bills are paid, what's left over. For most of us, if not all of us, for most of us, it's that cash flow that we use to build wealth. It's that cash flow that we use to put ourselves in a better position to where I don't have to work for the rest of my life. And not to confuse wealth building with debt elimination, I think is the other piece that we want to cover here. Using a debt tool to eliminate debt, you can't use a debt tool to build wealth, just so we're
Right.
clear.
Right.
So we're talking about two separate actions. We take this debt tool to eliminate debt, and I think we were calling it debt weapon in some cases. We take this debt weapon to attack debt, and then we transition that cash flow over to a wealth generating or a wealth tool to now start creating wealth.
Oh gosh, you sound like you're in the Matrix. I wonder if it sounds like that to everybody else.
Yeah, and you sound the same way to me. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier.
Oh,
So
dang. I wonder. Okay, well, put it in the comments for us if you guys don't mind if we sound like that to you guys or if it's just like on our end because we're willing to keep going forward. Well, you don't sound like that now, do I? To
no,
you?
you went in and out, so I think we're okay. And
Okay.
here's what I say to this: this is going to be a topic that we're going to have to cover multiple times. So even if we are, if it's annoying, I don't want to continue if it's annoying, but I say we kind of make our way through it. And even knowing that I'll end up having to do this again, because it's unclear to some as to how this actually works. I just want to make sure it's very clear. And the thought
Okay.
process, the angle that we are trying to use here is picture your wealth building strategy as though you're purchasing this big plot of land. And that plot of land, the whole goal of having that plot of land is to till it enough so that you are building this garden, and it's that garden, the fruits of that garden, the fruits of your labor that's going to then generate wealth for the rest of your life. So picture your cash flow is what you're using to now seed that garden to now grow your wealth. Well, in the process of seeding that garden, most of the time what we end up running into, if any of my gardeners are out there, the opportunity is, well, before I can start planting properly, I need to get rid of all the weeds. I need to get rid of all of the stuff that's preventing me from being able to properly address or grow or produce wealth.
That's taking up the space
Right.
on the
And
land. Right.
and this is where maybe not all of us are in a position where we are riddled in debt, but we still have these debt related issues that prevent us from truly growing our wealth the way it needs to grow.
Yeah.
And so this is where there's I'll call it a few different schools of thought here. Some say, hey, before I start addressing the using my cash flow to start generating wealth, before I start using my cash flow to put me in a better position, I need to first get rid of all my debt.
Right.
And that is one school of thought.
Yeah.
Mine is a little bit different. I think you can do both at the same time. I think not only can you take this debt tool and eliminate debt, but I think in the process, as this area starts to get cleaned up, there's an opportunity to also plant or produce wealth at the same time. You can simultaneously take both of these actions. You can eliminate debt and also generate wealth at the same time. And so that's kind of my thought process around velocity banking is two things can be true at the same time. And so again, you've got the school of thought where the main objective is just simply to eliminate debt. And that's not a bad move. That's a Dave Ramsey type approach, right? Once you get to whatever baby step X is, then you can start your, you've paid off your house, so now you can focus all of your attention on producing wealth. That's a strategy. I just don't think it's an efficient one.
Right. Because he includes your house in all of that too.
Right. It's eliminate debt, and then I'll start producing or putting myself in a position where I can use that cash flow to start generating other opportunities with income, Roth IRA, whatever those steps are that you might use. So you don't start until after that debt has been eliminated.
Yeah. And by the time people realized that really wasn't, that's not a vibe. I don't like being broke later in life.
Right.
And now people are suing him. Like, why'd you tell us to do this? We were supposed to be financially secure, and we're not. We can't use our house to eat or pay our other bills the way that you're telling us to do things. So now we're stuck. Meanwhile, he's been investing. He's been building wealth. He's not in that situation, right?
The math don't math.
Math ain't mathin'.
But I mean, I think in addition to that, as it relates to the individual, like when you take 15, 30 years to pay off your home and then start addressing your wealth at that point, how many compound cycles have been lost in the process of doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounded like a great idea at first, but in truth, you lost 20 years, 15 years of compounding where you could have been, maybe if you started with a smaller amount 15 years ago, and then once that house was paid off, then you were able to inject even more inside of that vehicle to grow things faster. But versus waiting 15 years before you're starting from zero. And as it relates to a wealth tool, and again, we've talked a lot about debt tools, PLOCs, HELOCs, business lines of credit. Even I don't think I've ever done an example with a business line of credit, but that's an example as well. There's many different types of credit cards. Obviously, there's many different types of debt tools, but we've rarely talked about wealth tools holistically, and there are
Yeah.
different types of wealth tools as well. And we're talking. Let's see if I can get this right. We're talking your traditional retirement accounts, right? Your 401ks, your IRAs. We're even talking secure compound interest accounts. And that too could include a whole life policy and IUL. And then, not to be confused, we are absolutely talking today about MPI. But don't forget, there's also real estate.
And I want to just say why I picked the hose for this example. Like, why does this make sense in this analogy?
Yep.
We're tonight we're going to be like the Gracie's corner of wealth management and finances. I picked the hose because you can plant what you want in your soil. You can put anything in there, but if you don't water it, if you don't provide the conditions that it needs, it's not going to grow. And that's what a wealth tool does.
Right. And there's many different types. And the reason I focus so heavily on a secure compound interest account is because I have yet to see anything that will produce income as quickly, as efficiently, without risk, and with as little effort. There's a lot of real estate millionaires out there, right? And
Right.
they've all made their money, made their wealth successfully through buying and selling properties, right? I don't discount the ability to be able to grow wealth in real estate. Like, it's awesome, but there's also a lot of effort involved.
And risk.
Versus, go ahead.
And
And
risk.
risk,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then your 401k and IRA, you got the market risk. Whole life and IULs, if they're properly structured, can do pretty good. But from an MPI perspective, I've just yet to see anything that can beat it.
Yeah, let's see it.
So again, so from a wealth tool perspective, we're talking what does it look like with something like MPI, and simultaneously being you. Oh, DF. I don't know where DF came from.
I'm gonna be honest, I thought your last T was a pickaxe. I thought you were just like making another, like, I had the hoe and then the shovel. I
Right.
thought your T was a pickaxe. Just
So my
saying.
thought process is two things can be true at the same time. We can use this debt tool to eliminate debt, and we can use this wealth strategy or wealth tool to be able to create wealth while we are eliminating that debt. So two things can be true at the same time.
Using the same amount of the cash flow is the same.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And the cool part about MPI, it's not just, hey, as MPI starts to produce that income for you, or as you start to generate cash flow inside of MPI, I'm not saying that all of your debt is eliminated. That is not what I'm saying. I am saying that simultaneously two things can be happening at the same time. And one of the interesting pieces about MPI, what makes it different from other secure compound interest accounts, is the relock feature. It's a feature, it's a lever that is inherently designed inside of this product that you cannot get, you cannot find anywhere else in any other cash value life insurance product. And what that relock feature does is not only is your money working for you as normal here, but in addition, it's exponentially growing because there's this leverage that you're being able to use from the life insurance company to be able to exponentially grow your account even faster. So it's this leverage piece that is not included or does not exist in other IULs. There's this leverage piece that does not exist in a traditional retirement planning. So you're able to leverage other people's money to be able to grow your account faster. If this was real estate, the relock feature would be other people's money. You're able to leverage banks. You're able to leverage peers. You're able to leverage communities to be able to exponentially grow your real estate portfolio faster. It's about the only other, I'll call it, relationship that I can use that compares to what happens inside of MPI.
Yeah. Well, and if anybody wants to understand, if this metaphor with these graphics, if it's not clicking, then I can further explain. Because again, I threw this at Donnell at the last minute, so he's really not talking about the plants.
Yeah, plants are not my thing.
Yeah. Well,
But to set the stage a little bit,
okay.
so let's say we've got a 30-year-old, and he's putting away. He's been freeing up debt. He's in the process of freeing up debt using Velocity Banking. He put himself in a more of a cash flow position. And again, I'm not saying the debt is eliminated. What I'm saying is there's enough cash flow. $10,000 a year is what I'm calling it. $833 a month that he's able to contribute inside of a secure compound interest account.
Okay.
30 years old, putting away $10,000 a year inside of a secure compound interest account. What does that look like by the age of 55? Just simply, what value would that secure compound interest account have by that age? And if you don't mind switching over to the calculator, I just want to show you what a 30-year-old putting away 10K a year for the next 25 years would look like. And then we can dig into the how.
Over to the calculator.
Yeah, over to the calculator.
Gosh, I am trying my best not to be distracted by paying attention to all the different things that we're live on, because I don't want to miss any questions either. So
It's all good.
feel free to ask them. I will catch them.
Take your time.
Okay, there you go.
All right. So as I mentioned, 30 years old. And I'm going to run this thing out to 55. So we're talking 25 years. Again, if this was a traditional retirement account, you can't even you don't even have the option to be able to access your money without tax and penalty before the age of 59 and a half. And we're putting away $10,000 a year, which is in essence $833 a month. So with $833 a month being input into a vehicle like this, by age 55, you would have available to you 103,000 tax-free for the rest of your life, a projected cash value of almost $1 million. So by age 55, you're almost a millionaire. Now, this $833 did buy a certain amount of life insurance. It bought, in essence, on day one, when you got your MPI plan, if something were to happen to you on day two, your beneficiaries would receive $429,000 in tax-free income. You have a death benefit overall, meaning it's the cash value that's been accumulated plus the growth on the cash value that's been accumulated plus the life insurance that produces a $2.6 million death benefit by the age of 55. So if something happened to you by the age of 55, we're talking about 2.6 million. Now, if you were to take this exact same approach into one of those other wealth building tools, like a traditional retirement account, it's the same 249,000 that would be put in over that 25-year period. The growth, I'm still going to call similar, 962,000 compared to 850. And this number comes straight from Vanguard. This is not a made up number by Donnell. This is straight out of Vanguard. So this $850,000 in a Roth IRA or 401k produces what? About $34,000 in income. $34,000. And if this is a traditional retirement account, we're talking about $34,000 taxable income compared to $103,000 inside of MPI. And the question that I get often is, but how? How is this even possible? How is it possible that this vehicle can produce almost, 3 times that of a traditional retirement account? What are the levers? What are the reasons as to why this vehicle is able to do this? And as I mentioned, MPI, the foundation of it is IUL, an index universal life insurance policy. This $249,000, you're making on average right around 7%. Starting in year 3, you're able to leverage from the life insurance company about 1.5 million. Starting in year 3 through year 55, you would have leveraged in total about 1.5 million. You're making on average 7% on your money. This money's making 7% as well, but leverage is just a fancy word for borrow. So if you're borrowing money, there must be a cost to borrow. So if you're borrowing 1.5 million and you're making 7%, that cost to borrow being 4%, that difference, there's a 3% difference, is yours. So that 3% difference on that 1.5 million plus the 7% on your 249 is what's creating this 962,000. And it's this dollar amount that creates this income.
And just for the analogy, this is that extra piece of land. Every time you do that, you're leveraging you're adding another piece of land essentially. And that's what makes your plot bigger for the sake of the...
Right. And if this was I'll call it a traditional cash value life insurance product like an IUL, you have the same 249,000, that's growing at on average 7%. What you don't have is this extra plot of land. What you don't have is this leverage. And without this leverage, how could you possibly get here? How do you get from here to here without help? You have to because of this assistance is how you're able to produce such a large cash value. Without this large cash value, you can't come close to $103,000 tax-free in income. And so my objective is just to walk through how this $103,000 is created. And I think from there we can jump to the other side.
There we go.
Okay. There's a few things I want to walk through here. One, we are talking about a maximum premium indexing strategy, also called premium finance strategy. And the thought process is the baseline of this product is an IUL. And that IUL, that index universal life insurance policy, is going to grow your money in a certain fashion. Now, I just wanted, this is just a basic diagram of how your money grows inside of a product like this. Over time, you are going to contribute a certain dollar amount. That dollar amount is going into a bucket called a general fund. And that general fund has a 0% floor. And I'll explain all of this information as we walk through the example. But I just want to give a high level overview. Your contributions going into this bucket called a general fund. The general fund is where that 0% floor lives. Okay, so what's a 0% floor? 0% floor is saying there is a contractual guarantee, not a Donnell guarantee, not even an MPI guarantee. There's a life insurance company contractual guarantee that says this: the money you contribute into the general fund, there's a contractual guarantee that you can't lose the money you've contributed. And that 0% floor also says, as money grows inside of your policy, as your cash value continues to grow, there's a contractual guarantee that says you can't lose the growth on the money you've accumulated inside the general fund. And it's that piece, that 0% floor piece, is what makes MPI and IUL specifically different from other wealth tools. At my age, and those around my age, when I'm talking to clients around my age, the first thing that usually comes out is the word security. Meaning, hey, I've got an IRA, I've got a 401k, I can't afford to lose the money inside of my 401k. Is there something else I can do with it? I am not happy with the growth inside of my Roth IRA because last year when the market crashed, I lost 24%. At my age, I can't afford another loss like that. Is there a place that I can put my money that's a bit more secure? It's this 0% floor is what makes this product so powerful. It's not the fact that it's a life insurance product. It's the security. It's the fact that there's someone is guaranteeing, someone being the life insurance company, is guaranteeing the money that I'm contributing and guaranteeing the money that that's growing from the money that I'm contributing, that it can't be lost.
We have a
And
question, if
go
that's
ahead.
okay.
Go for it.
Okay, we have Jordan Allen. Thanks for watching.
Yes.
How is 103,000 at the age of 55 available for a lifetime? Does it keep growing? Will it run out after 15 years? Such a great question.
And I think as we step through this, I kind of explain that. But the short answer to that question is yes. That's 103,000 for life. And does it run out? Structure matters. And the way this product is structured, the answer is no. And here's basically why. The growth, that 103,000, is an intentional dollar amount. That intentional dollar amount is based off the cash value that you have. And in essence, what's happening is your cash value is making 10, 12, 13, 14% over time. That dollar amount that we identify as being how much you can take as income is right around somewhere between 9 and 11%. The thought process is this: if you're taking 10% as a distribution of income, but your policy or your premium finance strategy is making 13%, if I'm taking 10%, I'm making 13%, taking 10%, making 13%, I'm just living off the interest. So the reason I can take this 10% for life is if I'm making 11, 12, 13% for life on this dollar amount, then I can take this 10% and not have to ever worry about running out of money. So it is absolutely for life. But why doesn't it work the same way inside of a traditional retirement account? It's pretty simple. Using that exact same thought process around a traditional retirement account, let's say you've got $1 million in it. The maximum you can take out of that $1 million is 4% based off the 4% rule. We've been over the 4% rule many times. When you take 4% from $1 million, which is 40,000, when you take that $40,000 as income, what just happened? You just withdrew $40,000 out of $1 million. So now you have 960,000 left. Well, the growth on that 960,000 needs to exceed the amount that you've just withdrawn. So in order for you to not run out of money in retirement, if you've taken 4% as a distribution, you need to at least make 8 to compensate for what you've taken, and then be able to replace or put back what you need for the next time. Well, because 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, TSPs, government 457 plans, and Roth accounts are not secure, meaning they don't have that 0% floor that this product has, you have zero control over what will or won't happen with your $960,000. All it takes is a 24% market crash, like what happened in 2022. And now that $40,000 distribution looks different because you've just lost 22% inside of your retirement account.
Amen.
So imagine that 0% floor being on your 401k. If that 0% floor was sitting on your 401k, here's what it would say about your 401k. When the market's doing great, your 401k would do great. But when the market crashes, instead of your 401k crashing, your 401k would just hold. It would hold right where it is. So if you had just taken a 40,000 distribution and you now have 960,000 left, you've got 960,000 in your account and the market crashes, you hold at 960,000. And then when the market takes off again, you take off again. That is the fundamental difference between these two products. And it's that 0% floor piece. Because of that contractual guarantee, that's what makes this, I'll call it more secure than a traditional retirement account.
And I'd like to just tie it back to the example that we started with the crop, right? And the parcel of land that you're growing, what you'll survive off of for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what it is, right? Yep. And every other these traditional plans, first of all, they were created by people who thought that meat and jello went together. Let's just not ever forget that, because it's true. That's a fact. And the other piece is that essentially the concept of it's true. It's weird and it's true, but that's why they don't serve us today. Jello is weird. That's why it doesn't serve us today. The other piece is, to just tie it to the example though, is the 4% rule is no different than canning. The whole reason why you had to can and you had to have a cellar is because this is what you had to survive off of. If your crop the next year just didn't yield as much, then you had to hope that you canned enough, right? Or what are you going to eat? And these things just don't serve us anymore. In addition, I don't know who's here that tuned in last on Sunday, because I was just so adamant about go watch the Retirement Gamble. They take 2/3 in fees. This means, doing the math, this means you could retire a third in a third less time than the amount that you end up retiring with if there wasn't so many fees. And that is super problematic. What if that money was growing for you because it got to stay inside of your machine?
Right.
And that's Absolutely. The problem that I feel like today people are trying to solve, is saying, we get that this is a profitable industry, brokers and the stock market and whatever the case is now, crypto, right? All these things are very profitable. But what happens to people who have they're waiting to get to $1 million, but they've put in a whole lot, and sometimes they don't get to keep that.
Right.
That's not right. So how can you ensure that you get to keep the money that you put in, and you're growing, and you're not going to run out of money? This is it. And This is why, but I wanted to tie it back to this part too, because I felt this was important since it's our topic. Why is it important that if velocity banking is your priority right now, why is it important that you learn this part and add this as a part of your strategy? It's because of the weeding piece. You can't wait until you've gotten every weed out to get started growing, because you can't leverage the time to start for things to grow. And that's part of the problem too, is whatever you're going to feed off of in that first harvest is going to be quite smaller. But if you would have started before, you would have a whole lot more. And it's just because of time is your biggest asset. So
time is the biggest factor in how much you end up retiring with, and whether or not retire early is even in your scope. Time is that piece. The earlier you start, regardless of the dollar amount, the earlier you start, the better position you're in to be able to have choices, to be able to get in a position to where you can fire your employer if you wanted to, or shift careers and move into your purpose. that time, taking advantage of that time early on, allows you to be able to later on make those choices when, when the time is right. So
Yeah, and you're not having to try to get creative, like putting meat and jello together and trying to convince everybody that it's good. Everybody knew it wasn't. Was never it was never good. Okay, I'm letting you take it from here.
okay. So what this visual also talks through is how money grows inside the policy. So just high level, what does that look like? So your contributions go in, and remember the example, it's a 30-year-old putting away $833 a month. So your contributions go in, protected by the 0% floor. It's going to make a certain gain. We're going to take that gain and do something special with it. But around year 3, there's OPM. There's other people's money that comes into play at year 3. And so what's going to end up happening is there going to be $2 amounts working for you inside of your IUL. Those $2 amounts, one being your contributions, the other being contributions coming to you from the life insurance company. This is not your money that's going to be working on your behalf. And I think that's another piece that gets lost in translation as it relates to this product. So I wanted to just kind of walk through an example as to what that looks like. So, I guess along the same lines of using a wealth tool in association with a debt tool to be able to create enough space or cash flow to be able to generate the wealth that you want, we introduce a bucket. This bucket is where what I like to kind of highlight this bucket as. This bucket to me is that general fund, meaning if you are contributing a certain dollar amount on an annual basis, and that dollar amount is now going to be working for you, where is that dollar amount going? It's going into a bucket. And in this case, that bucket is called the general fund. So again, to kind of reset the stage on this, this example, you got a 30-year-old putting in 10K per year. And that 10K a year is going into a bucket. This bucket is where the 0% floor lives. What that means is when $10,000 goes into that bucket, there is a contractual guarantee that the money accumulated in that bucket can't be lost. Contractual, not a Donnell guarantee. This is a contractual guarantee from the life insurance company who provides the IUL. That is the strength, that is the power of the IUL itself. And so this bucket, though, is going to grow your money. And I think what I'll do is I'll change colors here, just so it'd be a little bit darker. This bucket is going to grow your money, though. It grows your money somewhere between, it's the general fund. It grows your money somewhere between 3 and 7%. Well, how does the money in the bucket grow between 3 and 7%? It's because the money in this bucket is comprised of AAA rated bonds. It's the same general fund that is used with whole life policies. What's the difference between an IUL and a whole life policy? And a whole life policy produces dividends, 4% dividends based off the growth of the general fund. So the money, the dividend, 4% guaranteed coming to you for your whole life policy is the same place this growth is going to happen on the money that you're contributing. The difference between a whole life policy and an IUL is I can't tell you that this dollar amount is guaranteed. It's a range. It's a range of from 3 to 7%. So it is not a guarantee that your $10,000 is going to make you 3%, 4%. It's not a guarantee. It's a range. And that range is somewhere between 3 and 7. So for this example, though, what's halfway between 3 and 7? Halfway between 3 and 7 is 5. So for this example, I'm going to use 5% as the growth on the money inside the bucket. Another piece I want to kind of reiterate is that $10,000 that goes into this bucket will not be touched. This $10,000 goes in and it stays. There's going to be 10K sitting here once you can make a contribution into your IUL. But the growth on that money, that 5%, is what we're going to use, and we're going to introduce risk. I think as much as I've talked about secure compound interest accounts, very rarely have I talked about the risk associated with the secure compound interest account. So here's where we're introducing risk. 10,000 went into the bucket. The bucket is protected by the 0% floor. The 10,000 that went into that bucket makes a gain of somewhere around 5%. Doing actual math, 5% of $10,000 is $500. So we're going to take this $500 and do something with it. Here's where risk is going to be introduced. Yeah. We're going to take this $500 again, just set the stage. 10K went in. That 10K, which is protected by the 0% floor, that 10K is going to make around 5%. 5% of $10,000 is $500. Oh, $500. We're going to take that $500 and introduce risk. We're going to buy a one-time call option in the S&P 500 index. So anyone who provides whole life, this is where they make the argument of IULs are not secure. You can lose a lot of money in an IUL. Here's where this argument is starting to be made. So let me explain. Again, a whole life policy, you put that same $10,000 into a whole life policy, it makes you a guaranteed 4% on average, guaranteed 4%. So there's no risk to you not only not losing your 10,000, but also there's guaranteed growth. Whereas inside of an IUL, something else happens. That same $10,000 made a little bit more than the 5%. I'm sorry, the 4%. And that growth is now going to be used. We're going to introduce risk into this process, and we're going to buy a one-time call option in the S&P 500 index. I am not buying a call option. There's a bunch of actuaries who work for the life insurance companies who buy call options on a point-to-point basis around your anniversary. And I'll explain what I mean. But what is a call option? What does that look like? So again, using the dollar amount, $500. That $500 is going to be going to be used to buy a call option in the S&P 500 index. Let's just say currently the S&P 500 index is sitting at 4,000. I'm sorry, it's sitting at whatever the number is, but you buy a call option for the S&P 500 at 4,000. And from the time you purchase the call option for a calendar year of 365 days, so if you bought it on January 1st, on December 31st, if the S&P 500 index is above or below that $4,000, that 4,000 point, then the $500 you use to buy the call option, you make more money. So again, just to restate.
Well, you're not actually doing this. It's not you doing it.
I said that before.
Okay.
I am not an actuary. There is a whole team of people who have been doing this for years, and I'll show you the data on that performance. So you're absolutely correct. Donnell is not buying a call option.
And I don't have to do it either, right? Like the person who has this doesn't have to.
Absolutely not.
Show up and start talking about call options, right?
Absolutely. Also, and to be clear, if you bought an IUL from anywhere else, they may not, if you bought an IUL from anywhere else, they will offer you an opportunity to use the S&P 500 index, but there's also other index funds you can use. MPI specifically uses the S&P 500 index. Why? Because we've yet to see another index fund that can do better. Now, you might be able to find me some that can do better in a span of time, but when you look over time, the S&P 500 index is the best. And so again, that $500 is being taken and we're buying a one-time call option in the S&P 500 index. And again, just using this as an example, if that number is 4,000 and a year from now, let's say that the S&P 500 index ends up closing at 4,600. That's an increase of 15%. So close at 4,600, increase of 15%. Well, with the call options we use inside of MPI, there's a cap on the growth. And that cap is 10%. So even though that 4,000 went from 4,000, even though the index fund went from 4,000 to 4,600, which is an increase of 15%, we don't get the full advantage of that growth of 15%. Why? There's a cap, and that cap is 10%. Some might argue that's a bad thing, but with that cap comes security. You remove that cap, now it becomes a bit more volatile. I would much rather get a series of base hits versus a home run, strikeout, home run, strikeout. Meaning I would rather have the consistency of growth, because that's how you produce secure, uninterrupted compound interest, versus the wins and losses of the market. So that 15% growth, we don't get to take full advantage of it. That 15% growth for us looks more like
10%.
10%.
Okay.
And but that's assuming the call option does well. What happens if the call option does not? What happens if, like last year, the market loses 20+%? That means at the end of the year, instead of the 4,000 we bought the call option for, it ended up at 3,200. That's a negative performance of 20%. Well, do we take a 20% hit? No, we don't.
No,
Why?
we
Because
don't.
there's a 0% floor. What do I mean by that? Well, because there's a 0% floor, what that means is regardless of what happens here, we will not be hit by any of the impact of that market crash, because at the 0% floor, we just hold. There's a contractual guarantee that we can't drop below that 0% floor. But what happened to this $500? This $500 that was used to buy this call option, if the market crashes, then this $500 that was used, you lose. So there's the risk inside of this product. Remember the 10,000 we put in the bucket? Untouched. The growth on that 10,000 to $500 was used to buy a call option. Call option does well, you stand to make 10% up to 10% on the growth of your 10,000 based off that call option, depending on where it lands. But if the market crashes, that $500 that was used to buy that call option, you lose. And in the way I think simply, it's a win or loss. It's a go, no go. It's a 1 or a 0. Did it happen or didn't it happen? Meaning it's a gamble. So if you're questioning this call option, the question should be, well, how often do we lose? Like, I get it. Your $500 can make money up to 10%, or it can lose money and stop at the 0% floor. Sweetheart, do you have a question?
Yeah, you're sounding pixelated to me again, so I don't know if that's coming across just for me and you, or if that is coming across to other viewers. So I just wanted to see if maybe the signal needed to catch up or something.
Yeah,
Because it's hard. It takes attention to follow this as it is, but then if it's like all in the matrix sounding, I'm sure it's probably like, oh, forget it.
Well, and as I mentioned, we may have to cover this multiple times.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Okay.
So again, the $500 that was used to buy the call option, if the market crashes, you lose the $500. So your question should be, how often do we lose? Well, I've got that answer.
Oh, okay. How often do we lose?
Yes. How often do we lose?
Yeah.
Meaning, if it's a yes, no go, did it happen, didn't it happen? If it's a gamble, how often do we, when we take that gamble, am I in jeopardy of losing that $500 that I used to buy the call option? How often does that happen? Well, this is that performance. And I know it's hard to read, but this is that performance over the last 15 years. And over the last, again, what happened in 2008? The market crashed. Okay. So if you had a call option going in 2008, you would have lost the money that was used to buy that call option. But in 2009, 10%, 2010, 10%, 2011, the market crashed, 2015, the market crashed. What happened in 2018? The market crashed. And this is the last 15 years. And it has all of the years except 2022. But we know what happened in 2022. In 2022, the market lost 22%, which means in 2022, that would be a 0. But let's do some simple math. When you average the last 15 years, what does that average out to? It averages out to 6.87%. Well, if you were to Google the S&P 500 index performance over the last 35 years, looks like I'm frozen.
Oh, dang it.
Give me just a moment.
Okay. Well, while he's coming back, do you guys have any questions? Is this tracking? Do you have, is this making sense? Is this just hecka confusing? Because I think your feedback is really important for us anyway. I also want to take this time to say we heard you last time on the last live and we asked, would you guys want to go into a group where you could ask questions anytime and have access to get answers anytime? Also to meet other people who are on the same journey as you and be able to network and kind of collaborate, like, this is my situation, what should I do? What's the next move that I should make, type of thing. And we had a lot of people respond that they said, yes, absolutely, we are ready for a group. So we created a Facebook group. if you're on YouTube, it would be in our community section, a community tab, I think is what it's called. We made a post there. So links there. Now I can put it in the comments too, so you guys can have access to that, or in it down in the description. And then if you're on Facebook, you probably see that posted out already. So regardless, reach out to us if you want the link, and then you'll have access to it. It's free. Just jump in. I think sometimes it can be a lonely place to understand how to make these decisions and how to keep moving forward if you don't have other people around you doing the same thing. So I was just giving them the heads up about the group. So there's that. Oh, you can't hear?
There we go. I'm
Okay,
back.
Andrew Bennett on LinkedIn says they're all giving us feedback. So it says it sounds good on their end, which is really weird that it sounds different for us, right? But I'd rather it sound different for us than for them.
Absolutely.
Andrew Bennett says it makes sense to me and seems really interesting. And he has like a growth icon. I think the reason why it's so, even though it's like, what the heck is he talking about? I do feel like the reason is this part important. This is the part that was really important for me when you were explaining all this to me as I was learning.
Mhm.
You don't have to know any of this and you don't have to do any of this. So that's this is really just to understand how things, what's happening for you, I guess.
This is
But
weeds for the sake of weeds, meaning I get this question all the time. How? I get it. How? How does this work? And the only way you can explain how it works is to jump in the weeds. But here's my hope. We do this enough times, then we get to a place where I don't have to explain it anymore because it has been explained. And we provide a vehicle where people, hey, how does this work? Hey, here's that live that we did whenever that was for you to better understand that. But you're
yeah,
absolutely correct. Is it required for you to understand how money grows inside of this product for you to be able to successfully achieve the objective? Absolutely not. But here's the problem. MPI is not an IRA. We know about IRAs. MPI is not a 401k. Oh, we know about 401ks. It's not a 403b. It's not a TSP. It's not what we've been conditioned to believe is the vehicle that we need to be able to produce the income that we want. And then for my life insurance people, oh, we know about whole life policies. And don't start me with the Dave Ramsey folks, but we know that life insurance is bad. But if you're going to use life insurance, you need to use a whole life policy because there's guaranteed growth. And so because we've got these other vehicles out here that we've all been conditioned to believe that these are the vehicles we're supposed to be using to produce income, when you introduce something that people haven't seen, it brings all of this, I'll call it feedback of there's no way that can work. When the problem is people have never done the math. The reason you say it doesn't work is because it doesn't fit the narrative that's been shoved down your throat all your life.
by people who thought lead paint was safe.
Well, hold on. It even goes deeper than that. It's shoved down your throat because there's people benefiting from the fact that you don't know these things are available. There's
Right,
people benefiting from the fact that, you know what, if I use a tool different from the one that you're telling me to use, I might actually be successful. And the last
right,
thing you want is me to be successful. You need me to stay a sheep. You need me to continue working that 40-hour-a-week job that I'm currently working such that I'm working that job for the rest of my life and you've got handcuffs on me.
right.
The
And
last
because
thing you want me to have is a vehicle that will produce security and produce enough growth to allow me to fire you. Like, come on.
And the other thing is that if these vehicles were truly effective, then this industry wouldn't be so profitable and they wouldn't be siphoning off of people. If this industry, if these vehicles, these traditional vehicles really worked for people, then the people who are selling these vehicles would also be benefiting from them having these vehicles. I think the best part about what the system that you've built for us, you built that for us, and connected it all together is it works itself.
It
It
all
makes
talks. It
yeah,
all
it
talks.
and it works on its own. So there's
Mhm.
it's not dependent on you trading your time for money in order for this system to continue to grow.
Right.
That's game changing, completely different than these other vehicles where they are even dependent on other people. It's like an MLM. They are dependent on other people subscribing and feeding this system in order for them to stay afloat
Right.
and thrive.
I like usually what I tell clients is when you question something that's happening, just ask this question: who benefits? Like when you're wondering, man, why is this way? Ask the question, who benefits?
Yeah.
9 times
Who?
out of 10, it's not you. So that's the reason why we're going through what we're going through. The reason you have that
Yeah.
mortgage on your home, the reason when you walked into the bank and they shoved that mortgage down your throat is because there's some people that benefit from you having that mortgage. You think it's you. They're going to try to frame it as though it's you, but the truth is it's not. It's not you. The reason you go to Fidelity and get those 60, 70 mutual fund stocks and bonds that they offer and you're not structured to be able to invest outside of that is because someone benefits from you doing that. It's not you.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
one of those vehicles where if structured right, if you've getting it from the right place, the right person, the right company, the right life insurance company, the right product, this can do some absolutely amazing things for you. And I don't want to digress because there's so much to kind of go through here.
yeah.
So
Okay. All right.
slide back in.
All right.
So as I mentioned, the whole point was to identify how often the call option loses. Because when the call option loses, the money you use to buy the call option, you lose. That's a fact. But when but outside of that, it's pure growth from that point forward. So on average, it's about 6.87%. Is 6.87% better than 4? Because that's the max you can get inside of a whole life policy. It's not guaranteed. Don't get me wrong. That 6.87 is not guaranteed. But look at the data over time. The data over time says 4% forever compared to 6.87% on average, which is better. So, is that me? Okay, we're good. So yeah, we go here. So again, just to kind of reset the stage, this is year one. And we're taking our $10,000 that's sitting in this bucket, right? There's 10,000 sitting in that bucket. I guess me and my handwriting, man. I apologize, you guys. It just kind of is what it is. There's 10K sitting in this bucket. And that 10K makes you on average 5%. So again, that 5% is equates to about $500. Going to take that $500 and buy a one-time call option. For this example, here's what I want to do. For this example, I want to follow the years 2019, 2020, and 2021. Why? Those were great years. So what that means is the growth in 2019, 2020, and 2021 were all 10%. And
Okay.
then I'll circle back and explain what happens when the market crashes. But for this example, I'm going to walk through an example of what it looks like for the first 3 years, 2019, 2020, and 2021, when we had excellent performance. And then
Okay.
I'll explain what happens when the market crashes. So, and I'm not even going to use 10%. I'll use the average. I'm going to use the average of around 7%. So,
That's fair.
so here we are in 2019.
Okay.
So this is year one, 2019. $500 bought a call option. We know the call option is going to do well. That call option is going to make you somewhere around 7%. When you make that 7% on that call option goes back into the bucket on top of your 10,000. So what happened at the end of year one? At the end of year one, your 10K added 7%, whatever that math is. Hard stop. That's the end of year one. Nothing else happens.
All right.
So now we move into year two.
Okay.
So what has happened since year two? Well, in year two, we're going to add another 10,000. And we're going to add that 10,000 on top of the money that's already in the bucket. Well, how much is in the bucket? Well, in the bucket right now is 10K from last year plus the 7% we made. So when you do all of that, you're going to end up with 20K in the bucket plus the 7% from last year. And this dollar amount is protected by the 0% floor, which means you can't lose the money that's in this bucket. But the bucket is going to make you on average 5%, whatever that dollar amount is. Let's just call it $1,000. Well, because again, I don't know that math, but let's just call it $1,000. That $1,000 is we're gonna then buy a call option. Well, this is year two, which means it's 2020. We know this is a great year, which means we know the call option is going to do well. So that $1,000 is now going to make you an additional 7%. For this Example, let's just say it makes you $2,000. So now I'm using round numbers. So let's just say it makes you $2,000. What that means is at the end of year 2, your, let's call it 20K, just added an additional 2K, which means at the end of year 2, you now have $22,000 at the end of year 2. The relationship we have with the life insurance company says this: as long as you've contributed in year 1 and year 2 consistently, starting in year 3, something special happens. So again, just a quick recap. In year 1, your 10,000, let's just say it became 11. Your 10,000 became 11. And in year 2, your 21,000, 10,000 plus the 11 you just made, your 21,000 has now become 22,000 after all the growth. Everything that I've just shared with you from year 1 and year 2 has nothing to do with MPI. We haven't even started the premium financing strategy, also known as MPI. Year 1 and year 2 inside of your MPI strategy is just the performance of an IUL. Meaning, what I just walked you through, you can get from Prudential, you can get from Mass Mutual, you can get from any life insurance company that provides an IUL. This is the type of performance that you would get from a traditional IUL.
Well, does that include the 0% floor?
An IUL is an IUL is an IUL. Okay. IULs come with the 0% floor. That is not an MPI strategy.
Okay.
That is an IUL. And this is why this is important. When life insurance people try to compare products, this is what they're saying. They're saying MPI is just an IUL. What's the big deal? And with all of this leverage you're talking about, you're introducing risk, which means you're making it worse. There's no way MPI can do all of these things that you say it can do. Why? Because in year 1 and year 2, MPI is just an IUL. It's nothing special about it. At year 3, something special occurs. At year 3, the MPI premium finance strategy is implemented. And I kind of highlighted that. Yep, I did. Just want to make sure I still had it. So as I mentioned, at year 3, something special happens. Your contributions are able to add additional contributions from somewhere else. And we call it a match. We call it a premium finance strategy. It has a whole lot of names, but the moral of the story is starting in year 3, you're able to add additional dollar amount into this bucket. So let's just kind of talk through what that looks like. So let's go to year 3. So at year 3, you've got, what did I say? $22,000 already in this bucket from you.
Yep.
Right? There's
Yep. 20. Yeah, my bad. I should have locked those so they weren't moving on.
There's 22,000 sitting in the bucket. What also happens at year 3, though, you are going to put in another 10K. Another 10K goes into the bucket. But something special happens, as I mentioned. Starting in year 3, you are able to leverage all of the cash value from year 1. So in year 1, your 10,000 became 11. In year 1, you put in 10,000, protected by the 0% floor, made a gain, took that gain, bought a call option. Call option did well. That 7% growth went back into the bucket. Let's just call it $1,000.
Yeah.
In year 1, your $10,000 became 11. So starting in year 3, you are able to leverage all of the cash value from year 1. Make it a little bit bigger. Starting in year 3, you're able to leverage all of year 1 and put that in the bucket. So what just happened here? Well, your 10K plus the 22 was there, which is now 32K, has now added leverage of 11K. And this is not your money. Where did this come from? This came from the life insurance company. How did this money get there? Well, again, the agreement that we have with the life insurance company says this: hey, you funded your policy for the first 2 years. You now have full access to all of your cash value from year 1, and you're able to leverage it. We are borrowing $11,000 from the life insurance company. They are using your 32,000, or in this case, your 22,000 as collateral. So you're borrowing 11,000. You don't have to fill out some loan form. You don't have to qualify for it. Your policy just has to be in good standing. So you are automatically approved to borrow $11,000 from the life insurance company, and they're using your money as collateral, which means this money is not yours, but you are leveraging it. It's okay. This dollar amount, though, is still protected. All of this is still protected by the 0% floor, meaning this 32,000 is protected. This 11,000 is protected. And both of these dollar amounts are still going to make you 5% on average. So when you make 5% on your money, we're going to buy a call option with that. When you make 5% on this 11,000, we're going to buy a call option with that. So there's two actions now happening in this bucket. Your money is growing, and we have an opportunity to grow the money that's being leveraged. But both of these dollar amounts are protected in this bucket by the 0% floor, which means you contractually cannot lose it. It's not going anywhere. We're not even using it. We're using the growth from it. So in this case, when we take this 5% off your 32,000 and buy that call option, remember the year we're in. This is 2021. Oh my God. This is 2021. And because this is 2021, we know this is going to be a great year. What that means is this is a year we're going to receive the full complement of the 10% growth on that call option, even though I'm only using the average. My point to you is this: because there's positive growth, what happens? Well, when we take this call option for both of these dollar amounts, or take both of these dollar amounts and buy this call option, we know it's going to do well. Well, what happens with those dollar amounts? And again, as I mentioned, it's 32 of your money plus 11 of the life insurance companies. We're going to take this 5% from the life insurance company, buy a call option. We're going to take this 5% of your money, buy that call option. Well, when the call option does well, your money is going to make on average 7%, and it's going to go back into the bucket. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, no different than the prior years. But what happens with this dollar amount? What happens with this dollar amount? What happens with the amount that we leverage from the life insurance company? Well, it's the same performance. Nothing special, nothing new occurs here. The dollar amount that we use to buy the call option from the life insurance company also makes 7%. But I did say we leverage this money. Leverage is just a fancy word for saying borrow. When you leverage money from somewhere, there is a cost to leveraging that money. That cost in this case is 4%. So what that means is, even though you made 7%, the cost to borrow this money is 4%, which means we owe 4% back to the life insurance company. And here's where it also gets tricky. We borrowed 11,000 from the life insurance company. We made 7%. There's a cost to borrow. We owe 4%. Some people who don't understand this process argue that shouldn't you owe principal and interest? Meaning you borrowed 11,000. There's a cost to borrow. You don't just owe 4%, because I get it. That's the interest rate. You also owe principal and interest, right? And the answer to that question is no. Why is that? Well, the question that you have to ask yourself is, where is this 11,000? And it's very simple. Is this 11,000 in my pocket? It's not. Is this 11,000 in my savings or checking account? It's not. Where is the 11,000? It's sitting in the general fund. Do I have any access to the general fund? I don't, which means I don't have this 11,000. The life insurance company has it. So I am leveraging their 11,000. I'm making money on the 11,000 that I'm borrowing from them, but I don't owe them 11,000 because I don't have 11,000 to owe them. But I do owe interest. And so when I make 7% and I pay the life insurance company back the 4% that I owe them, what happens with the rest? I get to keep the rest. And that rest is, I know it's hard to read, so I'll make it bigger, 3%. So I make 7% on my money, and I make 3% on the life insurance company's money. So let's play that out a little bit. What does that look like? And this is year 3. Let's see, make sure I get my numbers right. 32 and 11. Yep. So on my money, I made on my 32K, I just made 7%. On the 11,000 that I borrowed, I just made 3%. And so, and what that means is, if this was just a regular IUL, if this was just a simple IUL, I would have made 7% on my 32,000, and that's it. With MPI, because of this leverage, I just made 3% on someone else's money that I didn't have to do anything to achieve. All I did was sleep well at night knowing that my account is being filled. I didn't have to ask a question. I didn't have to take an action. I didn't have to sign. I didn't have to do anything special for this dollar amount to occur. So at year 3, I just made 3% more on someone else's money than everyone else who has an IUL. And so what does it look like at year 4? Well, at year 4, we do the exact same thing. And I won't necessarily go through year 4, but there's no difference, no change in action at year 4. Meaning at year 4, we're going to put in another $10,000 on top of the 32 that was already there, on top of that 7% that I made off that 32. And then at year 4, we're going to borrow another 11,000, put that on top of the 11,000 that was already there, and do the exact same process again. Go ahead.
Jordan says, is there any chance you might owe the life insurance money interest because the fund didn't perform?
Yes,
He's got
absolutely.
some good questions.
And as I mentioned, I'm walking through the first 3 years, and then I'll circle back and show you what happens when the market crashes. So we're almost there. I promise you, we are almost there. The piece I want to walk you through is year 5, though, is in year 3, we borrowed everything from year 1. In year 4, we borrowed everything from year 1. But in year 5, something special happens. In year 5, because we met our obligation again to the life insurance company, and what was our obligation? That we funded our policy 2 years consecutively. Because we funded our policy again for 2 years consecutively. At year 5, we are now able to leverage, we are now able to borrow years 1 and 2. So not just year 1 this time. At year 5, we borrow from years 1 and 2. So I just want to kind of explain what that looks like. And again, regardless of what that dollar amount is that you've contributed at year 5, and regardless of what that dollar amount is you've contributed at year 5 as relates to the life insurance company, it looks like all of year 1 and all of year 2 that's going to be contributed. So in this case, it's going to be plus 20K. Meaning, instead of it only being $10,000 added, it's now going to be 20. And we're going to follow the exact same process. We're going to make 5% on the money that we leveraged. We're going to make 5% on the money that we of our own money, and we're going to buy a one-time call option for both. And based off that performance, these dollar amounts do one of two things. Our money ends up making 7%. The money that we borrowed also makes 7%, but we do owe 4% from the 7% that we've made. And so therefore that remaining 3% is ours. But the key here is that's growth based off $20,000 on top of the $22,000 that was already in this bucket, compared to just simply another $10,000 amount. Meaning in year 5, we doubled the amount of leverage and added that to the bucket. I think an easier way to kind of explain this is here. Let's see here. There we go.
Yep, we can see it.
So in essence, what has occurred here? In year 1, in year 2, we only made 7% on the money that we've contributed. Starting in year 3, you're able to leverage everything from year 1. So you have the opportunity to make 7% plus 3% on someone else's money. At year 5, you have the opportunity to make 7% plus 3% plus 3% on someone else's money. And this just continues to compound. It just continues to get bigger. Meaning I'm only stopping at, I stop at year 11 here, but what does it look like at year 25, 27, 29, 31. My point is there's an opportunity to exponentially grow the amount of money that you have inside of this product. And here's why I share this. One of the other arguments that the other life insurance people like to say is that 10% cap. Because you're putting a 10% cap on your growth, you're missing so much opportunity, so much gain in the stock market that there's other products out there that are better. That would be true if this was a traditional IUL, but this is not a traditional IUL. This is a premium finance strategy, which means you're using leverage. So therefore, the amount of growth inside your policy is actually unlimited. There's a cap on the call option. And the reason that cap is on the call option to protect you from the market volatility, which is what you want. You want the security, but the growth is exponential. The growth is uninterrupted, secure, compound interest for as long as you want it to be. And there is not another product that can beat that, at least from what I've seen. Real estate is great. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of billionaire, trillionaire moguls, probably not trillionaire, billionaire moguls out there in real estate. So please don't take what I'm saying the wrong way. But from a secure compound interest account perspective, from a cash value life insurance product perspective, from a traditional retirement planning perspective, I have yet to see another vehicle that can do what this does. And I think I've got this over here. Yep. So to just kind of walk through what the first 10 years would look like. Again, inside of a traditional IUL, we're talking $10,000 a year. So in 10 years, you would have contributed $100,000. And on that $100,000, you would have made on average 7%, right? So 7% growth on your $100,000, pretty awesome. But what does this look like inside of MPI? Well, inside of MPI, it's the same $100,000 that you've contributed, but starting in year 3, you borrow 10. Starting in year 4, you borrow 10. Starting in year 5, you borrow 20. Same thing happened in year 6. In year 7, things start to multiply. Year 9, things start to get even better. In just a short 10 years, you've made 7% on your money plus 3% on someone else's money. Which is better? Like, it's kind of a no-brainer to me. And
Right.
the other issue is this: as this continues to grow, this 3% on this dollar amount starts to exceed everything you could do with 7% on your $100,000 on your contribution, meaning the true growth in your account comes from here. This is just getting it started. And the whole objective for kind of walking through this today is it's all about getting started. The relock feature kicks in year 3. So the last thing you want to do is prolong that relock feature kicking in. The best thing you can do for yourself is get started as quickly as possible, because when this thing starts compounding, when these dominoes start to fall, it's game over. So if you are tending to your garden and you are removing all of those weeds and you're focused on velocity banking, eliminating debt, and you've made the decision that, hey, I'm going to eliminate all of my debt before I start a product like this, you're losing 2, 3 compound cycles in doing so. Versus, hey, as I start to free up cash flow, as I start to eliminate debt, as I start to create a space or an area to start building wealth, I want to take, I'll call it a realistic dollar amount. Usually I look at it as a percentage of your income. You know, I use the amount 10% all the time. If you are in a position to put away 10% of your income, but let's say you're not. If the best you could do is 5% of your income, start as quickly as you can. Why? When these dominoes start to fall, it's game over. There's nothing else that can catch up. There's nothing else that can compete from what I found. So,
I have a question.
yes.
So, because I think that especially a lot of people that watch the videos on our channel, they're just still grasping what are those stages of velocity banking. 1, how do I get started? And then 2, like, what does this look like if this is stages of velocity banking? And I love the concept of velocity banking because it shows you where your leverage is. And that's probably the most powerful tool that you were just now covering is where is your leverage and how can it supercharge or superpower the same amount of effort. You're not doing anything different. You're
No.
just leveraging something that other people aren't leveraging. They have access to it too, right?
Right.
One thing that I think that it is important is explaining what, like, is this something that is new? Premium financing.
Thank you for that. It's like if we were playing volleyball, that was set. Come in and spike.
Ooh, nice.
Is this new? Because I get this often as well. Is MPI new? The concept of MPI is not new. So let's talk about that. MPI is a premium finance strategy. Google premium finance. If you were to Google premium finance, you will find that premium finance or premium finance strategies have been around since 1997 in the form of a LIRP. LIRP just stands for LIRP, LIRP, Life Insurance Retirement Plan. Why did premium finance come about? Well, what else happened in 1997? In 1997, Roth was introduced. Roth meaning, hey, here's an opportunity for you to pay taxes on this sum today so that it's growing tax-free in the future. Well, banks or life insurance companies came along and went, wait a minute, we want to offer a Roth type opportunity to our clients as well. And their main focus were their high-end clients. So they created premium finance strategy. Premium finance strategy looks like this. In order to achieve the same tax-free growth on your dollars, you have to have a $5 million net worth. You have
That's
to
all.
have A plus credit.
That's
Why is
all.
that? Yeah, that's all. Why is that?
Oh,
Well, because you have A plus credit and because you have a high net worth, we can now go to the bank and say, hey, bank, we would like to supercharge our client's life insurance product by borrowing money from you at a low interest rate, taking that borrowed money at a low interest rate, putting it inside this vehicle, making a modest interest rate, pay back the loan that we owe, and then our clients get to keep the growth. We would like to use other people's money inside of this life insurance based product to grow, to create arbitrage and grow wealth exponentially. People have been doing it since 1997. I haven't because I wouldn't qualify for it.
and you know what's really messed up about this is the money that they're borrowing is everybody's money sitting in savings account and their checking account.
You're absolutely correct.
Like, did everybody get that part?
It
Because
reminds me of the
that's
high yield savings account, right? They are throwing 3% at us so they can leverage this money elsewhere to go do bigger and better things, right? You're absolutely
yeah.
correct.
So I want to make sure that we answered Jordan's question, that there's clarity around that. So their question is there any chance you might owe the life insurance money,
Yep.
the interest, because the fund didn't perform?
Yep.
How
So
about if, okay, go ahead.
this is exactly why I have the visual that I'm showing. So I'm going to pick a down market year. So let's pick 2015. In 2015, the market crashed. In 2015, there was 0% performance. So if I'm leveraging money from the life insurance company and I'm expecting to make 7%, but I don't make the 7%, I don't think the life insurance company cares. They're going to want their 4%, right? So I want to walk through 2015, but let me digress for a moment. What you have to understand about what is owed at 2015 is this. I do not owe principal and interest. If at 2015 I borrowed money from the life insurance company, and in 2015 that the money that I borrowed, the call option didn't pan out, where was the money that I borrowed? The money that I borrowed was not tied up in this opportunity. The money that I borrowed was sitting in the general fund, just waiting for more money to be poured on top of it. So I don't owe the principal that I borrowed. There's a cost to borrow. That cost to borrow is 4%. So in that year, I owe the 4% that I was supposed to cover with the growth of the call option in 2015. So I only owe that 4% in 2015. Well, what happened in 2016? In 2016, the market recovered. And when the market recovered, did I owe that 0% or that 4% from last year? This is a piece that gets really, really confusing, and it's important to understand.
I'm gonna pick yes. You do
So,
owe it.
well, and here's why people think that. Most people, when you owe interest on something, when you owe interest on something, that interest compounds, meaning I owe it this year, I'm going to owe it next year, and I'm going to owe it the year after that. If I owe it this year and I don't pay it this year, it compounds, which means it gets worse. It becomes more.
Right.
Well, this is
Which is why
simple.
Jordan's asking, what the hell?
Absolutely. But the issue here is the piece that you have to connect is I owe interest in the year that the market crashed. When the market recovers and I make 10% that year, I don't owe the money that I owed last year, because when I paid interest on the money that I owed in 2015, that loan became self-collateralized. The word self-collateralized is very, very important. What that means is when the loan becomes self-collateralized, that means it is paid off. Think about it. If I owed 4% in 2015 and I pay that 4%, do I now owe 4%? No. Do I now owe principal? No. Which means I satisfied all obligations, which means the loan is now self-collateralized, which means I have the opportunity to borrow it again next year because it's now self-collateralized. And so in the following year, when the market recovers, I'm starting from a new number. But let's say, okay, 2015, the market crashed, paid my 4%. 2016, the market recovered. 2017, the market did great. Ups. 2018, the market crashed again. And that's what it looks like right here. 2015, market crashed. 2016, recover. 2017, recover. Market crashes again in 2018. The 4% I owed here is different than the 4% I would owe here.
But
That's all I'm trying to get to.
But it's also not 4% off of your total balance or whatever. It's a different, you just explained how it was kind of siphoned off, like the amount that you're actually, right?
The key words there is the amount that I owe in 2015 would be different from the amount that I would owe in 2018. These are not, and here's why I'm sharing this. This is not a compounding interest issue. You know, compound interest, your money making money, and the money that your money makes more money. Eighth wonder of the world, Albert Einstein. But if you go to my quote is, if you don't understand compound interest, I guarantee you someone is making compound interest off you. This is not a compound interest situation, meaning this interest isn't accumulating over time. I'm sorry, this interest is accumulating over time. It's not compounding over time, meaning it's additive. In 2015, you owed interest. 2016, you did not. 2017, you did not. 2018, the interest you owe is a totally different number. 2019, you did not. 2020, you did not. 21, you did not. 22, it's a totally different number. So I just want to make sure this is clear. The interest owed is additive, but it's not compounding. Why is that important? Because the interest owed is in compounding, you're not eating into your cash value, putting yourself in a situation where you may become over leveraged. It's very important.
Like again, you would quickly with a whole life policy, which is where people get in dangerous situations.
Well,
right?
Like you would with any loan that you take that has an interest rate that's more than the growth inside your policy. So it could be it could be an IUL if it's structured wrong. So it could be in many different places. But the key is here, it is not an issue because of the structure. Now, I want to get into an example of what happens when the market crashes. So I just wanted to set the stage, though, of understanding we're talking about interest for the year that we're in. That following year, we do not owe that same interest. Matter of fact, we don't owe any interest at all. And then when another market crash happens, we owe a totally different dollar amount that, again, becomes self-collateralized once it's paid. That was the whole point of wanting to kind of share that. So let's jump into an example. And for this, what I would just like to do is dumb these numbers down a little bit, meaning we are now in the midst of a down market. Let's call it 2015.
Okay, it's 2015. Just kidding.
It's 2015. And this is the year when the relock feature kicks in. So in years prior, we've done our due diligence on the first 2 years. We're at year 3 and there's 10,000 going into the bucket that we're contributing, and there's 10,000 being leveraged from the life insurance company. Again, I'm paring this down. All I'm saying is at year three, we're at year three, 2015. This is the year when the market crashes. I've got 10,000 going into the bucket that I'm contributing, and I'm leveraging 10,000 from the life insurance company. Very simple example. So again, my 10,000 goes into this bucket. The life insurance company's money goes into this bucket. This bucket is where the 0% floor lives, which means my 10,000 is going to make on average 5%. And the life insurance company's money that I borrowed is going to make on average 5%. And I'm going to take both of these numbers and buy a call option. But guess what happens?
You're talking about only the 5%.
I am only, when we do a call option, because this is important.
Yeah.
The 10,000 that is put in that bucket is protected by the 0% floor. The money in the general fund is never touched.
Okay.
The only amount used to buy the call option is the growth on the money inside the bucket. That growth on average is 5%. So in this case, it's 5% on the money, on our own money that we've contributed, and there's 5% on the growth on the money that we're leveraging from the life insurance company. So both of those dollar amounts is what's being used to buy the call option. But guess what? The market crashes.
Dang it.
Guess what? We changed presidents. Guess what? Eggs are $46 a dozen. Like Elon Musk bought Twitter. Like regardless of what the reason is, the market has crashed. Well, what happens when the market crashed? And again, this is actual dollar amounts. It's $500 of your money, and it's $500 of the life insurance company's money that we use to buy this call option. And when the market crashes, right? Looks something like that, S&P. When the market crashes, what happens? This dollar amount that was used to buy the call option, we lose. So both of these dollar amounts are lost. But what happened with the 10,000 that we borrowed? What happened with the 10,000 of our money? Did anything happen with the $20,000 that's sitting in the bucket?
Okay, no. The answer is
absolutely not. But the growth on the money from the bucket is what was used to buy the call option. The market crash, we lose the $500. End story.
Yeah.
But the accumulated value inside the bucket, the total amount inside the bucket was $20,000. How much of the $20,000 was lost? Zero. And now here comes a market recovery. So that was, let's just call it 2015. So now in 2016, the market recovers. So what happens when the market recovers? And again, rather than draw it out, I think you understand this part. The $500, come on. The $500 of our growth and the $500 that we borrowed from the life insurance company, I mean the growth on the 10,000 that we borrowed, both of those dollar amounts we're going to use to buy a call option. We know the call option is going to do well, which means the 10,000 that we borrowed makes on average 7%. The 10,000 that of our money makes 7%. That's what happens when the market recovers. There's another piece here that I want to make sure is clear. When the market crashes, the life insurance company doesn't care that the market crashed, right? Life insurance company doesn't care that we change presidents or whatever the case may be. So when the market crashed, there are some things that have to be addressed. Remember, we borrowed 10,000 from the life insurance company, right?
Right. Yeah, let's get into that.
Yep.
I think that's what Jordan wants to know too. Like, what's up with this 4%, the money we borrowed? What are we into?
It's 2015, and the 10,000 that we put inside this bucket, okay, nothing changed with that. The 10,000 that we borrowed from the life insurance company, okay, nothing changed with that. But there was a cost to borrow in 2015. That cost to borrow was minus 4%. Well, what's 4% of $10,000? We're talking $400. Someone owes the life insurance company $400. Definitely not me. Well, how does the life insurance company get their money? Let me explain. There's two things that are going to happen. And those two things, if you have this product, meaning if you have an MPI plan, you won't notice either one of them. But let me explain the two things that will occur. The life insurance company is going to say, hey, okay, let's say that $10,000 amount was buying you a life insurance policy worth, let's just say $500K. Meaning, if you were to die today, the life insurance company would pay your beneficiaries $500,000. Well, the agreement that we have with the A+ rated life insurance company we work with says this: that $400 that you owe, we understand how it can impact your ability to compound your growth. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to defer all interest payments until you die. So what that means is, even though you owe $400 in 2015, the life insurance company is going to say, we're going to ignore the fact that you owe $400 and we're going to defer all interest payments until you die. So that 2015 amount, we're going to make a note of it. And then when the market crashed in 2018, yep, we're going to make a note of that one too. And then when the market crashed in 2022, yep, we're going to make a note of that one too. But let's say, God forbid, you passed away right here in 2015. If you passed away right here, the life insurance company would say, hey, beneficiaries, before you receive this $500, I'm sorry,
500,000.
before you receive this $500,000, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to take that $400 that was owed to us. So instead of $500,000, your beneficiaries are going to receive $499,600. I don't think the beneficiaries are too upset. And as I mentioned, the life insurance company deferred that interest payment until you die. Well, the other side of this is, okay, I get it. I don't have to pay the $400. It's going to come out of my death benefit. And the amount of times the market has crashed, that number is cumulative, not compounding. So every time the market crashed, there's a dollar amount that's going to end up coming out of my death benefit. Okay, got it. Well, how does the life insurance company keep track of that though? It's a simple ledger move. Let me show you what I mean. Someone owes the life insurance company $400. And again, how do they make sure, keep track of this dollar amount? Well, it's pretty simple. There's $10,000 on this side of the bucket, and there's $10,000 on this side of the bucket. If I move $400 from this side of the bucket over to this side of the bucket, what just happened? Again, the dollar amount in the bucket is $20,000.
Right.
But on the right side of the bucket, there's $400 owed.
Yeah.
So if I move $400 from the left side of the bucket to the right side of the bucket,
you're good.
What just happened though? Well, on this side of the bucket, instead of $10,000, it's now $9,600. And on this side of the bucket, it's now $10,400. But just simple math. What's $10,400 plus $9,600? $10,400 plus $9,600 is still $20,000.
Right.
So the argument to be made is, did you lose any money? And I can make the argument both ways, meaning the total accumulated value inside the bucket never changes. You went from $20,000 that you're leveraging and using to grow, and you still have $20,000 in the bucket that you're leveraging and using to grow. But your argument might be, my portion of that $20,000 though is $9,600, and the life insurance company's portion is $10,400, which is true. But what happens when the market recovers? Your $9,600 protected by the 0% floor makes a gain. We take that gain, buy a call option. Call option does well. Your $9,600 makes 7%. What happens on the other side? $10,400 protected by the 0% floor makes a gain. We take that gain, buy a call option. Notice your $10,400 makes on average 7% on $10,400. We pay back 4% on $10,400 back to the life insurance company, but that remaining 3% on $10,400 is yours, which means what? Your $400 on this side of the bucket is still making you money.
Yeah,
which
that's
means
where that
all of your money is still working for you.
that's where that 3% on in the bucket stacked up comes from.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So
All
the
right.
moral of the story is, so again, long way to answer the gentleman's question. Moral of the story here. When in the instance of a market crash, two things occur. One, they're going to defer all interest payments until you die. The second thing is it's a ledger move, meaning the life insurance company is going to move whatever that amount owed from your principal over to the life insurance company's principal inside the same bucket. But both dollar amounts are still working for you, which means the accumulated value inside your account never changed. And then when the market recovers, the growth is based off both of those individual amounts, which means your money that was moved over, that ledger move that was made over to the right side of the equation for the life insurance company, your portion of that money is still working for you. And yeah, okay, you're making less of a percentage, but it's still working for you, meaning you didn't lose it, it didn't go anywhere, and you're still making money.
Okay, I feel like I need a snack. I wish I could pass out snacks to everyone right now. I just feel like we all just need
It's
a
a
snack.
lot,
Stay
man. It's a lot.
hydrated. We're learning, we're growing, we are improving,
It's
and
a it's a fire hose of information.
it is.
And again, I'm doing this for one reason. I get this question all the time. And if you look at any of the, I'll call it the TikTok gurus who cover MPI, you don't have time doing a TikTok live to explain this in detail. You don't have that kind of time. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to detail what actually happens, mainly because I get this question a lot. And I know we're going to have to do it again, but I probably won't go I won't go in as much detail the next time, but I just wanted to make sure we spent the time to kind of detail how a product like MPI can outperform a traditional retirement account. So if you don't mind, if you go back to the calculator, I want to just kind of wrap this thing up at the calculator.
Okay. All right.
All right. So as we mentioned, as we kind of started this, I've got a, hold on, let me do this real quick. I've got a 30-year-old. Oh my goodness. That is not what I meant. I've got a 30-year-old putting in 10K a year.
Why not?
T-
Okay.
10K a year. And the whole objective is to allow that money to compound till age 55. Well, as we kind of mentioned inside the calculator, that equates to about $103,000 tax free for the rest of your life. That dollar amount over time, looks like this. 249,000 is what you've contributed over that 20-year period, or 25-year period. And the leverage starting in year 3, you end up leveraging about 1.5 million. Those are the buckets. And to kind of step through what those buckets look like a little bit, from age 33 to 31. So at the end of year 1, you would have put in right around $10,000, no leverage, and the projected cash value is less than the amount that you put in. You've put in 10,000, you have less than 10,000 working for you. Why is that? The difference between these two numbers are the fees. Okay. In year 2, you do the same thing. But what happens at year 3? At year 3, you'd be 33 years old. By year 3, you would have put in right around $30,000. At year 3 is when you leverage everything from year 1. So you're making on average 3% on this dollar amount plus 4%, 7% on this dollar amount. You're making on average 7% on the money you've contributed. You're making on average 3% on the amount that you've leveraged. So 7% plus 3% on this growth is what gives you this 31,000. Notice you now have more money in your account than you originally contributed. Starting in year 3 is when this thing starts to separate itself. And so you play this out till age 55. Notice how much the leverage has grown. This 7% growth on this 249,000 is awesome. but there's no possible way 7% on this dollar amount can achieve 962,000. It's the 3% on this leveraged amount is what allows you to achieve this nest egg. And which is what equates to that 103,000 tax free for life. So because this 30-year-old didn't wait till they were 40 to eliminate all of their debt before they started contributing to a secure compound interest account and decided to use that cash value as they were starting to build it and starting their secure compound interest account at 30, putting away $10,000 a year, by age 55, put themselves in a position to where, and how about this? Maybe at 55, they're still not debt free. But who needs to be debt free when you're achieving $103,000 tax free with a nest egg of $960,000? Who cares if my house is paid off? If I wanted to, I could leverage the money inside my policy now and pay my house off. Paying my house off is not the goal. The goal is building wealth. You cannot build wealth with a debt tool. You have to build wealth with a wealth tool. You can use a debt tool to get yourself out of debt. You can use your debt tool to create more cash flow, but you then have to get that cash flow working for you. When that cash flow is then working for you, where do you put it? You put it in a vehicle like this, it's game on. 45 years old.
I think
what are we saying?
He has 40,000. Maybe that's a lump sum.
Yep, I'm going to take it as that. So,
well, hold on one second, Carlos. If you could comment if that's a lump sum that you're wanting to see what that would do, and if there is a monthly contribution.
You said 45 or 40? I'm sorry.
He's 45.
45. All right. And I'll kind of put the retirement age here. I'll do 66 just so it's 3 compound cycles. And if we're putting in a lump sum, you didn't tell me a monthly contribution, but I'll make up one for you. If you're in a position to be able to put away $12,000 a year, which is $1,000 a month, you take that $40,000 lump sum, dump it in one for you. Again, we're talking about a 6-figure income. Notice I did add a monthly contribution of $1,000 a month. I'm not saying you're in a position to do that. What I am saying is if you were to add a monthly contribution along with your lump sum, and another thing to note about this calculator, this lump sum is assuming you're putting in $20,000 in year 1 and $20,000 in year 2. So that lump sum is being split across year 1 and year 2. But if you're in a position to do that, we're talking about $109,000 tax-free for the rest of your life. You would have contributed.
Oh, hold on one second. Can you change it to $800 per month so
Easy.
that it's an accurate assessment for him?
Not a problem. Easy. Nope. I did not mean to do that. Perfect. So again, we're talking $93,000 tax-free for life, a nest egg of around $840,000 in projected cash value potentially. You would have put in $241,000. You would have leveraged from the life insurance company starting in year 3 through age 66. I did put 66 just mainly because I know the compound cycles inside this vehicle around 7 years. So I wanted to give you 3 compound cycles so you can see what it looks like. On average, you're making around 3% on this 1.6 million, 7% on your growth equates to about a nest egg of about 804,000. You would have purchased life insurance in the amount of around 740,000. But God forbid, if something were to happen to you around age 66, you're passing on $2.2 million to your beneficiaries.
Dang.
Like, please show me the 401k that can do that.
Yeah.
Show me the whole life policy that can do it. Like, it just, there's nothing to compare what I'm showing you here, with the exception of real estate. But my point is, your traditional retirement vehicles are not designed for this type of growth. And here's what I mean. You put this exact same dollar amount, exact same $40,000 lump sum, exact same $800 a month inside of a traditional retirement account. And I'm assuming 9% growth. I'm assuming 1% management fee. Here's what we know. There's not a whole lot of people achieving 9% inside their retirement account, if any.
Or 1%. Go watch the retirement gamble.
Or 1% management fee.
Yeah.
So this is giving you a huge benefit of the doubt. Look at the dollar amounts, $804,000 compared to $773. I think they're comparable. I would call that around the same net worth. I'm not here to talk to you about net worth. I could care less what your account looks like. What I care about is how much income is being produced in retirement. When you need the money, how much is available to you? Well, inside of a traditional retirement account, how does $30,000 work? And if this is a 401k, a IRA, a 403b, a TSP, a government 457 plan, we're talking about $30,000 taxed. So it's going to be less than that on an annual basis. Compared to a product
And
like this, 3 times tax free
and
for
who cares
life.
about inflation? Because somebody who is getting to retirement age, they've put in what they were supposed to put in. They've done what they're supposed to do. And now they're realizing, I can't live off of that. So this is where people are forced to downsize. This isn't a choice. They're forced to make these decisions. Just even in our own community, some of the conversations are around an assessment fee, right? The community is needing this assessment, and dues are going to have to go up. And as we were sitting in this meeting just recently, it was just last night, we went to attend this meeting. I was looking around to all the people who were highly concerned about these assessments. Now, younger people were looking at them going, well, the money's not going to come from thin air, right? What they were missing was that these people are in retirement. These people are on fixed incomes. These people have this amount, and this amount was when they retired. This amount was not considering 2023 or whatever amenities or whatever needed to be done. It wasn't considering that huge chunk for an assessment fee or whatever else was going to come out of that budget. If you're living off of $30,000 a year and you're making it work because this is what you think is your only option at this point, by the time you realize it, it is, and somebody comes to you and says that's going to cost $3,000 and you have no leverage.
Now,
That's sad.
you're right. This dollar amount does not account for, and you said it, so I have to address it. Inflation. This calculator does not account for inflation. So $93,000 20 years from now, whatever that 21 years or now, whatever that time frame is, won't spend the same. So you're absolutely right. And but how do you account for inflation in a product like this? You can do that as well. The way you do that is when you decide, when you're working on velocity banking, freeing up that cash flow, trying to understand what to do with that cash flow. I talk about 10% of your income. Well, as your income increases due to inflation, due to promotion, due to whatever's happening in your career, if you keep that same percentage as a portion of your income, meaning as you make more money, you contribute more, it then mathematically accounts for inflation as well. But to your point around people on a fixed income with a regular retirement account that they're being taxed on, and then you throw in some type of emergency or some type of other expense they weren't expecting, it is detrimental. The key is to not put yourself in that position, which is why you want to start early, which is why you don't want to wait until all of your debts are now zero. You want to consciously and realistically take control over your retirement planning by putting yourself in a position such that you can make better decisions later on. And how do you do that? You have to start sooner. And starting sooner may mean starting with a less amount. But the key is you get this machine working for you and you start to build compound interest over time, and you start to put yourself in a position to where now, again, just to kind of use this gentleman's number, we're talking about at age 66, this is what that dollar amount looks like. But let's say he's been doing this for 11 years. He'd be 56, still less than retirement age. If I walked up to this gentleman at age 56 and offered him a $27,000 tax-free check in addition to whatever he's doing, my assumption is you're probably not retired at 56. So if I walked up behind you with a $27,000 check at age 56, if you had an assessment fee in the community that you were in, what other things could you do with that $27,000 that wouldn't impact your daily lifestyle?
Right.
So
Because it's
it
for
doesn't
life.
matter,
It's
right?
not.
It doesn't matter
Yeah.
retirement age. This is about income. And in addition, maybe 27 isn't enough. You've got liquid cash of 239,000,
Right.
meaning if you needed to buy that new Tesla, and instead of going to the Tesla dealership and getting bank financing, why not finance it yourself? I'm not suggesting that, but I'm saying you have the ability to do so. you have liquid cash available to you that you're able to use for whatever you're wanting. And this is tax-free leverage. And you're not penalized because you're touching this money before a certain age. You've got the
Right.
same. How about this? Inside of a 401k or an IRA, you would actually have more. But can you touch it? Can you do anything with this that won't end up being taxed or penalized? Can you leverage it? Well, with the 401k, you can borrow against it. So that's a positive. But in most cases, you can't do anything with it without being taxed or penalized. Whereas here, it's completely accessible.
Well,
Yes.
hold on, because people say that. They say you can borrow against your 401k, but they're also not considering that if you're in a flow, if negative cash flow situation, you need money. You can't now afford another payment
Right.
to pay this back. The difference here is, just as you covered earlier, you really don't even have to ever pay back a loan if you don't want to.
Yeah, the thought process around that is if it, and it has really nothing to do with MPI specifically. This is just conceptually, meaning if you're in a vehicle that is properly structured, meaning in a product like this, you're making money in 3 places, meaning the 7% growth on your money is making you money. The leveraged money you're borrowing, there's a cost to borrow, but it's making you money. 7% on your money, 3% on the money that you borrow from the life insurance company. And
Yeah.
then when you go to leverage your money, meaning when you go to use your money to make an investment somewhere else, you're also borrowing that money at 4%. I would hope the only reason you're borrowing that money is to go do an investment that's going to make you more than 4%, which means you now have the ability to make money in 3 places. Well, if this was a whole life policy, if you were doing infinite banking, you're
With the
only
whole
able to,
life policy,
right, with the whole life policy, the truth is you're only making money in 2 places.
but
So
you're
I went
losing.
from 3 places to 2, meaning, yes, you're making that 4%. That 4% guaranteed is 4% guaranteed, hands down, no argument. But in most whole life policies, I've looked at well over 300. In most whole life policies, they're structured to where the cost of borrowing is more than the money that you're making inside the policy. Meaning, if you're only making 4%, but it costs you 5% to leverage your money, costs you 5% to borrow, you're in a negative position the minute you take money out of that whole life policy, which is why people who do infinite banking say you have to pay that money back. The reason they're saying you have to pay that money back is so that you can right the ship inside your policy and you don't start eating into your cash value. Not because it's just the right thing to do. Not because if you're going to bank on yourself, then you should treat your money the same way the bank would treat your money. That's not it. The issue is the whole life policy is designed such that you can put yourself in a negative position, negative growth position, if you don't pay back the loans that you borrow. Well, inside a properly structured product, and again, a whole life policy could be properly structured. An IUL could be properly structured. So in a properly designed product, if the cost to borrow is less than the money that's being made inside the policy, the need to pay back the money that you're leveraging is not as severe. I'm not saying don't do it, but it is not as severe if you don't do it. It doesn't impact your ability to be able to take income or for your product to, or for your policy to continue to grow effectively. You can't make that argument with the whole life policy. And if you can, I would love to hear in the comments who can.
Well, I see it. What you're describing is like a sweater unraveling as you're knitting it, and essentially, you're just going to end up with a pile of yarn if you are, you know. So there's my analogy for that. Okay, Jordan has some more questions, so I want to make sure we answer those.
Let's do it.
Okay, the first one is, need a drum roll. I do have one somewhere. When you set up an MPI account, do you have to meet a minimum payment? Can you add more money as more money frees up with Velocity Banking?
Yes and yes. Short answer. But let's talk about it. So with a properly designed premium finance strategy like MPI, there is a minimum that you can contribute. What we've learned, and again, I've been doing this for about 4 years, what we've learned is that minimum is right around 10 times your age. So if you're 45 years old, that absolute bare minimum is around $450. Why is that? I'll show you. 45. So you're using 45. Let me get rid of this 40,000. And what I said was that bare minimum is right around 10 times your age, 450 bucks. 450 bucks a month is buying a certain amount of life insurance. How much life insurance did $450 a month buy? $450 a month bought somewhere between $100,000 to $150,000 in life insurance. What we've learned about this product is you have to buy somewhere between $100,000 to $150,000 in life insurance, somewhere in that area. Why? Because the truth about IULs, and here's where Dave Ramsey's right. The truth about IULs, the truth about life insurance products in general, there's an expense to them. And so what we've learned is that minimum amount of life insurance allows us to counter the expense inside the product. And again, I shared with you what that expense looks like. What does this look like at age 46? Nope, sorry. 50 and then 46. What does this look like at year one? Well, you would have put in $5,400 in that year one, but you do not have $5,400 working for you. Why not? Because there were fees associated with this policy. And what we've learned about, again, properly structuring this product is this. We need bookend somewhere around $100,000 to $150,000 in life insurance to compensate for the fees inside this product so it doesn't start to implode and eat itself. So because that minimum is $450, by the time we hit year three, you would be 48. By the time you hit year three, notice, where'd all the fees go? You put in 16.2, you got 16.4 in cash value. Where'd all the fees go? So again, if we're going to structure this properly, and I'm going to, this is something that I say to a lot of people who have life insurance products. Go home, take a look at your illustration, and what you want to do is ask yourself, when do you break even? Meaning, when does what you've put in accumulate to what's actually working for you? In this calculator, you notice that in year three is where you break even. You put in $450 a month for 3 years. You have more than $450 a month times 3 years working for you at year three. Your break even point is year three. In most cash value life insurance product, that break even point is years 10, 11, or 12. 7 is a really good product, but a poor product is years 10, 11, or 12. Inside of a product like this, that break even point is year three. Again, it's just about growth. It's just about income. It's about building wealth. And this is a product that is pretty dang powerful.
So the other part to his question is about, can you add more money once cash flow frees up from velocity banking?
Yep. So the other answer to that question is yes. So let's say at year three, you decide, hey, I'm happy with this growth, 16,470 over the last 3 years, but now I've paid off more debt. And I want to increase this $450 a month to $900 a month. There are limitations to this calculator. I'm going to attempt to kind of show what this would look like. This is not exact, but this is about as close as I can get. So from age 45 to 48, you've put in $450 a month. You've accumulated cash value of about, again, let's just call it $16,000. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that $16,000 and I'm going to put it here as a lump sum, 16,000. And that's not 16,000, 16,000. And I'm going to change this age from 45 because you're now 48. And then I'm going to run this out till, let's call it 65 or whatever that age is. And we changed our contributions from $450 a month to, we doubled it, 900. And again, just want to make sure what just happened here. At age 45, we were contributing $450. That's it. From age 45 to 48, we accumulated a certain amount of cash value. I'm taking that cash value and I'm using it as a lump sum from ages 48 on, because now from ages 48 on, we want to increase our contribution. And so what does that look like from age 48 to 65? We are still building. This is not 100% accurate. I can't overstate that, but there's limitations to this calculator. My point to all of this is this. Yes, you can increase that dollar amount. And when you do increase that dollar amount, you have more money working for you, more money growing for you at that point. But it just shows as though the amount of time from ages 48 to 65, you're putting in more money at that point. So can you do it? Yes. Um, Matter of fact, every year you and I would meet to review your policy. So every year you would have the ability to change those contribution amounts to a different dollar amount if you wanted to. So every year you would have that opportunity.
Right on. Okay, so if you have any other questions about that or that, feel free to put them in the chat. Okay, next question is: are there fees for taking your money out to buy that new Tesla?
Yep. So if you ever get a what was this, 800? If you ever get a life insurance product from anyone, and if they ever use the words withdraw, you should run. So absolutely, you can get money out of your secure compound interest account and do whatever you want with it. But how you do that matters. You do have the ability to withdraw money from your cash value life insurance policy. But if you withdraw money from your cash value life insurance policy, you will be taxed on any of the growth. So you don't want to do that. You lose your tax privileges when you withdraw. So what that means is whenever you want to leverage this cash value, what you want to do is you want to borrow against this cash value. And I did say borrow. So if you want to buy a Tesla, let's say a Tesla for $100,000 or whatever that dollar amount is, you borrow $100,000 from yourself. Well, when you borrow $100,000, there's an interest rate applied. That interest rate, let's just say, is 4%. So now, excuse me, you're driving that Tesla for the next 5 years. 4% of $100,000 is $4,000. So over a 5-year period, 4 times 5 is 20,000. So you bought this car for $100,000 at year 1. You've driven it for the 5 years, and you now owe at the end of the 5 years $120,000. You never paid a dime. Well, assuming you're still contributing to your plan, what happened to your plan 5 years later? So 5 years later, you went from 66 to you're now 71 years old. You owe $120,000. But look at the growth. Because you didn't actually withdraw that $120,000, you leveraged that $120,000. Because your account continued to grow, you now have cash value of $1.3 million. You owe $120,000 to the life insurance company. You could pay that $120,000 in your sleep. That Tesla's paid off.
Paid off.
You never paid a dime at year 1. You waited 5 years. You have 5 years of interest that has grown on that 100,000. You have the ability to take 148,000 tax free for the rest of your life. Pay that loan off in your sleep. But let's say you didn't.
Okay.
Let's say, God forbid, you passed away right here. You had taken $100,000 5 years ago, and that Tesla fell off the cliff. You and that Tesla are gone. I know, morbid, right? You and that Tesla are gone. What happens? Someone owes the life insurance company $120,000.
Right.
Well, okay. When you passed, before the life insurance company gave your beneficiaries $2.7 million.
Okay.
Before your beneficiaries received $2.7 million, the life insurance company said, sorry, but he owes us $120,000. Let's say it's more. Let's say he owes us $200,000. Who cares? Your beneficiaries would receive $2.5 million instead of $2.7 million. Are they upset with you? And remember, you didn't pay a dime on that loan.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Show me the whole life policy that can do that.
Well, this is truly becoming your own bank.
This is 100% becoming your own bank.
Yeah. This is
you leveraging your life insurance cash value, and you're putting yourself in a position to be able to not just be your own bank, you're doing what the bank has been doing to you. So you're not just your own bank.
Yeah.
You are now treating your money and you're treating your situation the way banks have been treating you forever.
Exactly.
So it's even bigger than that.
Yeah. And it's about time we understand how to play this game, or the game's going to play you. So that's just how it is. I have a private question that came in through Facebook from one of our I it's
Oh, I
a
thought you meant you had a private. Okay, I get it now. All right. I'm gonna.
I have a
Okay.
question that came in from a viewer, but privately.
Okay. Perfect. I got you now.
So we can't put it up on screen because it's in my inbox.
All
Okay.
good. All good.
And which is totally fine with us. We don't care. And
Yeah.
matter of
Send
fact,
them where you want.
yeah, if you have questions and you just don't want to put them in the chat, this is where you put them.
Yep. Absolutely.
You can text us right here at this number. Go to selfdirected.info/live. There's a ton of free resources, including our new free tool, which is a velocity banking calculator, spreadsheet, workbook
It's up and
thing.
running now.
It is. You can get it there.
When was I gonna know?
I told you I put it up. Remember, I told you like last night? It was
It's
like
all
at
good.
dinner. Casually mentioned it. It's a work in progress, but we love to have your feedback on it. So that's where you could go and grab access to that. And that will show you like what your cash flow does as you start to pay bills, and you can categorize it by months, and there's a lot of opportunity there. However, the question is,
Yes.
how can you utilize this type of product, the strategy? It was how can you utilize this to supercharge your velocity banking strategy?
Okay. Couple things. Velocity banking is not a wealth strategy.
Right.
So, can you use this though to eliminate debt? Absolutely. So let's say this gentleman again using the age 71, he's got 1.3 million dollars sitting in his cash value, and he's going. You know what? I'm 71 years old. I love my house, but my house isn't paid off, and the last thing I want to do is leave this burden to my family.
Right.
I want to address the fact that this mortgage, I'm still, Donnell said I didn't have to eliminate all my debt, and I didn't. And I've got this home that I'm still paying my monthly mortgage on. I want to eliminate this debt.
Yeah.
I still owe $150,000 on my home.
Yeah.
You can absolutely leverage this $1.3
How
million
how
to
old
pay
is
off
he?
that debt. 71, I think at this point,
71.
71.
Oh, and he needs a new car because he's had it for forever and ever. It's breaking down.
Right. My point is, can you use the cash value as a tool to eliminate debt? Yes, you can. But what you can't do is use velocity banking using a debt tool in velocity banking, home equity line of credit, personal line of credit, business line of credit, loan, savings, checking, or first position HELOC, second position HELOC, credit card to build wealth.
I disagree.
Tell me about it.
Okay. I think you can because I do think that it has to be a part of your strategy so you have the room to do that. But I do think that no different than what we do, utilizing your a first position HELOC, it could be a debt weapon, right? A debt tool, but you could also leverage it to front load a policy. You could
Okay.
also borrow
So
from it because that's also like your own bank.
so let's finish the thought out though.
Okay.
Because that first position HELOC you can use as a debt tool to eliminate debt.
Yes.
And you can leverage the money inside of that HELOC. You can take a lump sum out of your HELOC and dump it into your MPI plan to supercharge and grow your MPI plan faster.
Right.
It's the MPI plan and it's the supercharge from that money you dumped in from your HELOC is what's building wealth. That HELOC
Right.
itself, though, what just happened when you dumped 50,000 in from your HELOC into your MPI plan?
Went
You
up.
just increased the balance on that HELOC, and now you got to pay it back down.
Yeah.
So the debt tool itself is a tool to eliminate debt. You just can't use that tool, the debt tool, to
Right.
generate wealth, but you can absolutely leverage money in the tool to dump it into a wealth tool to generate wealth. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I follow the dot you're connecting there. So I'm with you there. I'm with
Okay.
you.
I just didn't want people to miss out on that fun
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, no,
I think
I
it's
follow what you're saying.
important.
I follow.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that that sums up all of our questions. We just had one last comment.
Let's do it.
You're the best, man.
Oh, appreciate it.
Thanks, Carlos. He wasn't talking to me, but I'm just going to thank him anyway because I think that that's great. We love the feedback, guys. We'd like to know if this is hitting home, if you're appreciating this information, if we see that it's worth your time to tune in, and time is your greatest asset, and so we don't take it lightly that you're spending your time here with us. On that note, though, I don't know that we need to stretch this out anymore. We're past two
I'm
hours
hungry.
here, two and 2.25 hours.
I'm hungry.
And
Let's go.
I think the important things to take from tonight are that we have the Facebook group. That's a great place. Some people say, I'm not on Facebook. Well, you have our number now. You can text us any questions that you have. We also have, if you go, what the heck did I just watch? And I feel like I need more context, or I just met you guys. So I feel like we're kind of moving too fast. Like I need to slow down and get to know you a little bit better. You can do that by going to selfdirected.info. There are a ton of free tools. There's 2 free books. We've got a full video series that you can learn all about all of this at your own pace too. They're smaller chunks, so you can have snacks or naps in between. And if you have questions that come up while you're watching or consuming any of that other information, you have Donnell's number to text him, and he doesn't mind if you bug him. It's not bugging him. He really likes the questions, and he's in there all day, even in between appointments. He's answering those questions in real time. So that's where you can get started. That's where you can also find his calendar. So if you want your numbers ran and you want to see what this looks like, you can always show up here and ask, like, hey, just like Carlos did, this is my information. What does that look like for me? Totally welcome to do that. Or you can book an appointment and then he'll walk you through all of this. In addition, the separate thing to that is that now you can give him a little bit more of information, and he can then help you to structure and go, okay, you know what? Here's some opportunities you may have not seen before, and how and what you personally have as part of that you can add as part of your strategy. And I think those are just some things, that the benefits that you get when you are on a call with him. Somebody, comment and let everybody else know what their experience is. Or right there on the website, you can see hundreds of reviews of people who have met with him and what their experience was, if you just want to know what that's about. So enough self-promotion. My goodness.
So
Amazing.
it just dawned on me. I know Carlos. And as a matter of fact, Carlos is working on a home equity line of credit right now. And
Okay,
so
Carlos.
this example, I think, is right in line with what it is he's trying to do. What he's trying to do is, hey, he's trying to see if this home equity line of credit that he's looking to use can be used in a vehicle like this to be able to, and I think it's twofold. I know he wants to eliminate debt, but in addition, there's an opportunity to use this cash flow to be able to do other things. So it just, I don't know, it just now registered that's who that was. So this is actually a real world example for a 45-year-old putting in $40,000 of a lump sum. The issue with this calculator, though, he's putting all 40,000 in year one. So all of these numbers would be more.
Right.
I can't simulate that in the calculator, but doing that, whatever, $800 a month on a monthly basis. So this is actually a real world example. So Carlos, thank you for joining us today, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. But it's a testament to knowing where your leverage is and identifying where your leverage is, because that does supercharge everything. Understanding how to leverage debt, because not all debt is bad debt. I know a lot of people say that, but not all debt is bad debt. Some
Right.
debts are just leverage, right?
Right.
Nobody would say don't wait till you can pay cash for a house. Literally, no one would say that. Because who's going to do that? Who's going to be able to do that?
The
So
bank would love it, though.
the leverage that you can get from the bank in order to secure a home, that's just leverage at
Right.
that point, and that's still considered debt. So looking at things in a different way, I think that's how we strategize, that's how we build wealth, and we are building a community of wealth builders. So join us over on our Facebook group. It's free. Ask questions. I think that's where we can kind of like share in a more casual environment to say, hey, this is what I have. What do you guys think? Being able to help other people too, man, can you imagine how we'll grow, what this community will do of people who are building wealth? It will change the game forever. At minimum, we'll be more prepared for the future. That's super important. And so we're glad you're here. Did you see Jordan's comment?
Yep, just threw it up. So how do you get started with MPI? I'm your guy. It's pretty simple. Reach out and let's talk about it. I accept a lot of. Right now, my calendar is pretty full, but there is room if you want to talk about MPI or understand MPI or to better understand MPI. But here's what I would prefer. I think the step to getting an MPI plan or understanding an MPI strategy is education. I think the first step is to take advantage of the tools that Angelica's mentioned. Go to selfdirected.info and look at the information there. jump into the video series. Start with videos 10, 11, 12, and 13. You heard it from me first. Understand what MPI is and what it is not. And then when you're ready to get started, man, it is as simple as jumping on my calendar. You have to apply. Just because you want an MPI plan doesn't mean you get one. Just because you want a premium finance strategy does not mean you get one. You do have to apply. You do have to be approved. You do have to be healthy. There is a requirement for a health exam for you to be able to have a secure compound interest account like MPI. But the process of getting approved, meaning, hey, you have to be healthy, you have to apply. That process can take 4 days. That process can take 6 weeks, but it's not a complicated process. And what does it mean to be healthy? Hey, you're going to have I'll call it a very non-intrusive health exam. A traveling nurse is going to take your pulse, check your heart rate, weigh you, maybe even measure you. But as long as you're fairly healthy, it is very easy to get approved for a premium finance strategy. I'd say out of the 1,000 clients I have, maybe less than 1% is not approved. And I guess since I'm headed down this road, I may as well say, what would stop you from being approved for a premium finance strategy like this? What would stop you is if there's some type of chronic illness that you have that you're not addressing. A big one is like, let's say you're a diabetic and you have chosen not to address your diabetes, meaning it's not that you are in the hospital or there's something wrong with you. You have this condition and there's no record of, hey, I'm taking my insulin, I'm doing all of I'm keeping my weight under control, I'm addressing my diet, I'm doing all of the things necessary. I have chosen to just ignore it. Well, what you're asking of the life insurance company is to insure your life based off the fact that you have chosen not to address this illness that you have been diagnosed with and you've had for X amount of years. But that same person that is diabetic and is taking care of themselves and has the record and the documentation that shows that, there's no harm or there's no reason why you wouldn't be approved because you're doing what's necessary. So to get started, starts with education. Once you're educated, we apply. That application process is a fairly simple process that I would do with you. Once you're approved, I would show you the offer that's provided to you. Once you accept that offer, the last step is for you to sign your final documents. And at that point, once you sign your final documents, apply your first month's premium. And if you're doing a lump sum, you apply your lump sum. At that point, you now have an MPI plan for the next 12 months. You and I would meet on an annual basis to review it. That's where you can make your adjustments. But ultimately, that's it. It's pretty simple.
And it's free to apply. So there's not anything for your time. Even if you have questions about how to structure, how to like assessing, is this the right time for me to start or something like that, that none of that applies here. So it's free to reach out and ask questions. It's all of that is free. So that's not, I want to answer that question because we get that question a lot. Like, how much does it cost to contact Donnell? I just need like a little consultation and it's free. So I want to clear that up. I don't see any other questions. I'm going to check really quick LinkedIn since we can't, the questions don't populate in here. Nope. Just appreciation for tonight and that they've gotten a lot of value. So we appreciate everyone who's tuned in, everyone who's taken the time to comment too. We can't tell who tunes in unless you comment. That's how this game works. But we know that you're there. We can see you. We can see the number and we appreciate all of you. So on the note of all of the free resources that we have and where you can get them, we have all that packaged up and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for you guys. Any final last?
Nope, I'm good. I'm Donnell.
Where is this? And I'm Angelique.
Get self-directed.
All right. Hold on one second, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth. time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you
Get self-directed.